Welcome to Platform Product and Promotion. My name is Bob Mayer. What we're going to be talking about in this half hour is how you are unique as an author. One of the things that happens to authors is they hear all this advice coming in from all these different people telling them do this, don't do that. And it gets a little overwhelming. A lot of it's the same, but some of it contradicts each other. So I came up with these three variables to sort of allow you to find your own way. What I'm going to start out with, though, is some background on myself and the publishing business in general, so you get an idea where I'm coming from. I've been making a living writing books for over 3 decades now. I was traditionally published with 42 books, I think. Hybrid author, indie author, published by Amazon Publishing, their 47 North imprint. So I've been all over the place as a writer, so I've experienced a lot of different things, even around my own publishing company, Cool Gus, for a couple of years. So I've kind of seen it all from all perspectives, from the author, the publisher, had several different agents. So this is a sort of generic view from my point of view, and that's kind of the key to this. This is my point of view. I always look at the background to anybody's opinion, their blog, their post, their article, whatever it is. The first thing I look to is see what have they achieved, and do they have something I want, and why should I listen to them? So there's a lot of experts out there who can tell you how to do something they themselves haven't done. That doesn't mean you dismiss what they say, but you kind of take it with a grain of salt. The photo here says you are without a doubt the worst writer I've ever heard of, and his response is, but you have heard of me. And that's the key. We're all fighting for space now, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about what publishing is, because there's a lot of information floating around and people have different agendas about it. We create the product as authors, okay? That's the story, or in the case of nonfiction, the information we're putting out there. Readers consume the product. A lot of people don't talk about readers that much, but they're the key to the whole publishing business. Without readers, we don't exist. So who and what is in between us and the reader? That is the key you have to figure out as a writer. There's a lot of people who want to insert themselves in here. Some of them bring value, some of them take away from value. Distribution has given way to discoverability. When I started, my first book came out in 1991. I got my first agent in 1989. It was just traditional publishing, the big 6 back then, smaller presses, but basically they controlled everything because they controlled distribution at bookstores. That was the only way you were going to get into bookstores following that path. With the advent of the internet and ebooks, now it's discoverability, which is somewhat different. We'll discuss that. Got to remember, bookstores are consignment venue. You really have to think that through. It used to be a 50% sell-through was considered okay. I don't even really know what a sell-through. I'm sure it's up like 80 to 90%. Everything in publishing is a good news, bad news issue. I mean, yes, it's good that we have an 80% sell-through. The bad news is publishers are going to cut back their initial print runs to ensure a higher sell-through. And that's dangerous for an author. You run into the problem of, like, over 3 books, you have higher sell-through, lower print runs, which is sort of a kiss of death eventually, because your print runs are going to go down to pretty much nothing. You may be selling 100% of 3 books. That doesn't do you much good. Publisher controlled distribution to those venues. Okay, Walden Books went under in 2011, which doesn't seem that long ago. It actually is in terms of publishing. Barnes & Noble is shrinking. They have new management. We'll talk about them in a second. Independent bookstores are growing in numbers. We'll talk about that in a second. So here's your Barnes & Noble through 2016. Their peak is 726. They were down 640 in 2016. I'm not sure where they are in 2020. I mean, given the pandemic and everything going on, Polis are a bunch of months that could not have been good for Barnes & Noble's physical stores. Any physical store suffered. They do have a new CEO. He turned around Waterstones in England, so people are very optimistic. I love Barnes & Noble. I remember when there was one down in Manhattan I used to go to as a kid. They are the best bookstore for mid-list authors because they rack a lot of titles. I hope they hang around. But I do think for a business plan, an author really needs to consider what happens, especially if you're a mid-list author, if Barnes & Noble goes under. We'll talk about that. Independent bookstores are growing in number again through 2016. The pandemic has hit them hard. Every day I get the various emails, bookshelf, a couple other emails, and I see which bookstores are closing. There's a couple opening up. Honestly, I don't think much about print books right now as an independent author. It's very hard to get into bookstores. And even when I was in traditional publishing, the reaction I got from independent bookstores was mixed. A lot of them try to go a little bit highbrow, and they're not into genre fiction. You know, I have here romance sells 56% of fiction. You know, you think they want to rack a lot of romance, but they kind of a lot of bookstores turn their nose down to romance. So that's a reality you have to face, especially if you're writing genre fiction. Now this is BookBub's genre preferences. It's not what people are buying, it's for BookBub. The reason romance is kind of low here at 11% is romance readers are very savvy readers. They know what they're doing, they know what they want. So mystery thrillers, what BookBub is, if you don't know, it's an email you can sign up to receive every day in your preferred genre, and it gives you discounted books. I used to run BookBub ads at least one a month when BookBub was first starting. It was a great place for indie authors because traditional publishing hadn't gotten involved in this yet. They were very leery of discounting ebooks. Now it's the province of backlist, traditionally published authors. Yes, some indie authors are in there. I haven't run a BookBub ad in a couple of years, not just because of that, but also because of the long tail is gone. You can get a one-day spike in a book, and then you used to be able to get a week, 2 weeks of continuous sales because your sales ranking went up. And now you can see people spike up to #1 in their genre the day the BookBub ad email comes out, and the next day they're back to where they were. So that's just the reality. Amazon was founded in 1994. I've been writing longer than Amazon was founded, so that's something to think about. Why did he pick books? You need to think about that. There's a book called The Everything Store, which I recommend everybody read. It is about Amazon, and he picked books not because he loves books. He picked books because he knew he could disrupt the market. He knew he could have a warehouse racking more books than any bookstore. And he knew bookstores were consignment stores, so he knew it was ripe for disruption. Kindle came out in 2007. There's I don't even remember what the Nook reader is called anymore. I guess it's called the Nook. That kind of died out. Pretty much you've got the Kindle now. Amazon opened its first bookstores in 2015. That hasn't been that big of a deal. They haven't put much emphasis on it. They purchased Whole Foods. They have 4-star stores they're starting where you just walk out with the products. That is the future. I mean, we are now doing the jobs of cashiers. Isn't it amazing how we end up doing more and more work and we don't get paid for it? Soon you'll just be able to roll your cart right out of the store and it'll automatically tabulate everything for you. 50% of Americans buy less than 10 books a year. People don't read. So that's the hard part. They got so many other things competing for their time, their work, their home life, but also streaming. There's so many cable channels, video games. You are competing against a massive avalanche of material in the entertainment business. And you are in the entertainment business. You need to remember that. 14% buy more than 20 books a year for themselves. 60% buy a book on recommendations, word of mouth. That's the magic grail. If I knew how to do it, I wouldn't tell you because I keep it a secret. No, nobody really knows how something goes viral. It's magic. When magic happens to the person standing on top of the mountain trying. 49% buy a book on reviews. 31% online depend on online reviews. The golden age was 2010. A lot of people making a lot of money because the indies owned it. Again, traditional publishers were leery of jumping into this. Now they're full in. Their prices are still kind of high, but they're full in, so it's over. We've come full circle. So what we have are airport authors. That's the people racked in airport bookstores. These are names you recognize. They get paid to be placed there. They get discounts to be placed there. The traditionally published midlist, which is shrinking every year. Amazon publishing authors, which is huge now. They were laughed at just 3-4 years ago. Dean Koontz is with them now because they control Amazon, which not only sells over 90% of ebooks, they also sell 30% of print books. So Amazon controls a huge part of the market. You got indie authors doing it themselves. You got hybrid authors. I like to think I introduced that in a blog in 2011. I talked about being traditionally published and at the same time self-publishing. I recommend, even if you're traditionally published, you should be working really hard to get some books out there that you control the rights to, because that gives you multiple income streams, and that's the key to success in publishing. Then you got ghostwriters, collaborators, technical writers. There's authors being published now who are no longer alive. There's a lot of people out there making money in publishing who you haven't heard of. So, you don't despair. I mean, for 30 years, all I've heard is gloom and doom. I think it's the best time ever to be a writer. We have two types of readers. You've got the casual airport reader. I don't really concern myself with them. They're not going to pick up one of my books. They're going to pick up a John Grisham, a Stephen King. They're like the people who eat at McDonald's, okay? We are not McDonald's. And the voracious reader, that's your reader. That's who we're all competing for, is that voracious reader. But that voracious reader has more options at less cost than ever before. Okay, John Fine used to say we have a tsunami of content, and I disagree with that, because I think we have a flood, because this isn't going to recede. 2017, 500,000 titles uploaded to Kindle Direct. I have no idea how many books are on Kindle through KDP right now. Millions and millions of books. How are you going to stand out inside that flood of titles? There was no big book series then. I just noticed the #1 seller right now is a Twilight book. I guess it's a prequel to Twilight. It is out. Publishers rely on that big anchor author to keep them going. I've seen this, that only 40 indie authors have sold more than 1 million ebooks in the last 5 years. I don't buy it. I've sold more than 1 million. You've never heard of me, right? I know a lot of indie authors who've sold a lot of books. So they're under the radar. They've got their nose down. They're working really hard. You got a lot of opinions out there. Sometimes I read posts and I'm looking, going, what are they talking about? The same business I'm in? There's a lot of experts out there. Very few of them are objective. They're all trying to push some angle. So you are in a unique position. If you go to a conference, even a conference like this one online, I always advise people go to the workshops taught by someone who has what you want. Everybody goes to the agent panels. The odds you're going to get one of those agents on those panels is very slim. I would go listen to authors who have a career path, sort of like what you want to try to follow, and see what they have to say. What can they teach you? Okay? We all have an agenda. Everybody has an agenda. So how are they going to slant the information they send to you? Because remember, their agenda isn't your agenda. And the only agenda you really got to prioritize is your agenda. Then fear. I remember when I was writing Cool Gus, my business partner and I would go to like Book Expo America, and we'd walk into the Javits Center in Manhattan, and all the thousands of people there and all the booths, and I'd look at her and I'd say, listen, nobody here knows nothing. And what I was trying to say was, everybody's an expert at their niche, but they're not an expert at everything. They may know their niche really, really, really well, but that doesn't mean they know everything. Editors know how editing, they know the publishing business, agents know the publishing business. Do they necessarily know how to come up with an idea and write a book? Do they necessarily know how to market a book? Your publicity departments, publishing houses are kind of funny in a way. I asked Random House one time, they'd always promise something and they wouldn't deliver. And I said, well, who do you put your marketing money behind? They said, we put our marketing money behind our bestsellers. Back then, to me, that was kind of backwards, but now I understand. They don't know how to make a bestseller, but when they got one, they ride that sucker. So where are we going? All I keep hearing is ebook sales are plateauing, ebook sales are plateauing. Nobody's counting my books, okay? Nobody's counting Kindle Unlimited pages read. So there's a statistics lie. It's The Wire. If you watch that miniseries, they call it juking the stats. Everybody's juking the stats. And the reason I have the Special Forces Ranger tabs there is I remember in the Army when we were transitioning from, the Cold War to the War on Terror, it was really, really hard to turn things around. Traditional publishing has turned around and embraced the ebook. I don't know what's going to happen now. I do think the business model is going to change a bit after this pandemic passes, hopefully. Traditional bookstores have taken a hit. Print sales have taken it. But then again, more people are reading. So where are we going? Nobody really knows. I always try to gather as much information as possible and work off of that. We're pricing ourselves into oblivion on both ends. Okay, BookBub, we're giving, I have to have 2 perma-free books on my website, bobmayer.com, if you want to go get them. But they're the first in a series, so I'm introducing you to a series. People are bundling books. That used to be a big thing to get on the New York Times list. 12 books for 99 cents. The author's making like half a cent royalty, but they did it to hit a bestseller list. Amazon prices their books between $3.99 and $5.99. I always follow Amazon's lead, whatever they're doing with ebooks, because they have the data. Traditional ebooks are still kind of over $10. Ebooks dominate fiction sales. New York will argue with that. Other than the big sellers, I think for mid-list authors, ebooks are dominating. Amazon imprints will continue to grow simply because they own the market. They have Kindle First, where they will introduce a new author. It doesn't cost them really anything other than editing and signing the author to a contract. They'll give the book away for free the first month to everybody who wants it, who's signed up for Prime, and see how it does. See how the reviews come in and maybe launch an author's career, or they get to see, well, this one didn't work. Let's find somebody new. Kindle Unlimited will continue to grow. What I've noticed since a lot of people are hurting financially with the pandemic is sales are down a little bit, but pages read are up. What that means to me is people aren't willing to spring for $5 for a book, but the people who have the Kindle Unlimited are using it more. They're reading more pages. The market will grow more saturated, especially since we've had all these people sitting home writing their masterpieces. We're going to be uploading it now. Audiobooks will grab a higher percentage of sales. I've invested over $100,000 in audiobooks. I have 45 books produced through ACX, which is Audible Creation Exchange. I'm not going to explain it here. You can look it up. But it is a way to hook you up with the talent, the voice, to produce a quality audiobook, and it's a good income stream monthly for me. Marketing is key, discoverability. We'll talk a little bit about that when we talk about platform, product, and promotion. Amazon's crushing online sales competition versus Apple, Nook, Kobo. It's like Apple owns music, Amazon owns book sales, ebooks. I can hardly find my own book in the Apple bookstore, which is kind of really weird. Kobo's okay, because it's Canada, it's international. Nook kind of was mismanaged from the start. I'm not sure where they're going with ebooks at Barnes & Noble. You got the big 5 publishers in New York. Agents have evolved. They understand Amazon publishing. They're working with them. They understand hybrid authors. So marketing discoverability we'll talk about. Answer this question. I'll do anything to achieve my writing goal, except don't ask me to do something. And it's something, I'm talking about involving your writing or your publishing business. There's something you know you need to do, but you just don't want to do it. That's the thing you're going to have to do, because that's the thing that's holding you back. I'm a big believer in rule breaking. I actually got a bad write-up on a conference because I said this, and someone posted on social media, which wasn't the brightest idea because everybody can see anything on social media, that they thought it was the worst piece of writing advice they ever got. So I'm giving you the worst piece of writing advice you'll ever get. The rules of rule breaking. One is know the rule. Because if you break a rule and you don't know the rule, it's called being dumb. Okay, so then have a good reason for breaking the rule, and then accept the consequences of breaking the rule. If it worked, you're a genius. If it doesn't, okay? What do you want to achieve? You got to know where you're going before you set out to get there. Do you want to make money, diversify, you want a creative outlet, how are you going to get there? This is all part of what I teach in Who Dares Wins. Write It Forward actually is my program for writers. I use what we did in Special Forces in the writing. I got a whole book on that. I'll show it to you at the end. How many books? What kind of books? What do think these things through. A lot of us just start writing a book and we don't have a plan. It helps to have a plan. Okay, where to publish, how to market. Self-publishing is just as hard as traditional publishing. Actually, these days, I recommend to a new author. By new, I mean, you haven't been published yet. Try to get an agent. Try to be traditionally published. I think it's much more likely that you'll succeed on that path, because it takes 3 years to learn something new. So learning how to write a book is hard enough, but learning how to write to be a publisher, it's going to take you a couple of years. When I ran Cool Gus, I would have to explain to an author who wanted to work with us what value we brought to the table, because they're like, all you're doing is editing the book, throwing a cover on and uploading it. What's the big deal? Formatting it. And it took about an hour to explain all the things involved. It's a lot of detail involved in self-publishing. And know your goals and align your work to achieve them. Okay, these are all your options. There's all sorts of different things you can do. But there's many roads to Oz, and Oz means different things for people, okay? You do it on your own, you become a publisher, you can contract out aspects, all that's fine. Now, here's the 3 Ps. Everybody listening to this is different, okay? None of you are the same, because you're going to vary on how good your platform is, how good your product is, and how good you are at promotion, okay? Also, your books aren't the same. This is one of the reasons, the big secret of traditional publishing is, their publicity departments never do one thing that every publicity marketing department is supposed to do, which is conduct a survey of who your customers are. They don't know who their customers are, because every book is a discrete product. Every author is a discrete product. So you may like Stephen King, that doesn't mean you're going to like Joe Schmo. I mean, they do the best they can to sort of pigeonhole things, but they really, it's hard. It's very, very difficult. So no publishing path is the same. So you fit somewhere on this chart here. Okay, you can have a strong, you'd love to be at the top. You've got a great platform, you've got a great book, and you're really great at promotion. You don't want to be at the bottom where you don't have any platform, your book sucks, and you're not going to promote. That's going to go nowhere. But you're somewhere here, and we'll see this again at the end. You factor these 3 into everything you do. They influence you there. They're not discrete because they cross over into each other. All right? So these determine what advice to follow, because someone with a different personality than yours can do something marketing wise that you just can't do. Like Facebook. I'm not good on Facebook. I know people who are great on Facebook. They have their street teams and they're engaged and they're doing these great things. That's not what I can do. So for me to try to do that isn't useful. I try to do what I'm good at. What is platform? Platform is name recognition or brand. Okay, most of us don't have that when we're starting out as a writer. Nonfiction's a different story, but for fiction, probably not. Are you an expert in your field? Hopefully you're writing about it. Think inside flap copy of a hardcover book. What are they going to put in your author bio? Does it have anything to do with what you're writing about? I know for certain I wouldn't have gotten published initially if they couldn't put on the flap, former Green Beret writing about Green Berets. That helps give you some validity in your field. Do you have a special background that makes you unique? But it's also internal. I always tell people, go on YouTube and look at the film clip from the movie Walk the Line of Johnny Cash pitching. When he walks into the studio, what was his platform? Well, he's a door-to-door salesman. Okay, that's not a platform. His platform there was anger. That's what he used. He channeled his anger into his music. Everyone listening to this has a platform. You need to figure out what makes you unique. What is your platform? What's your passion? Because you're selling your passion as an author. And here's the big thing. Can you communicate that passion? The most important thing you're probably ever going to write is a query letter. In that query letter, can the agent and editor feel your passion as a writer for the book you wrote? You could build platform. If you're not where you want to be, decide where you want to be and start building your platform to be there. Become, the person you want to be. Are you an expert in something? Become an expert in something. It has to interest and resonate with other people, though. Just because it interests you doesn't mean it interests other people. You got to think about the reader all the time. The most powerful platforms are emotional, okay? Because that's where we get engagement. Understand who you are. Yes, you're going to have to get therapy. If you're listening to this, after you get done, call up and make an appointment with a therapist if you're not already seen one, because trying to be a writer, you just do not fit in the bell curve and you are not necessarily on the good side of the bell curve. Who do you want to be? For a new writer, build community, not promotion. You've got nothing to promote. But you can go online. You can make connections with people online. You can slowly build community. Expand your networking. Really, really critical aspect of publishing is to network. Comment on people's blogs. They notice people who comment on their blog. They keep seeing the same name. They're going to get to know who you are without ever meeting you. Build your social media platform, block brick by brick. What is product? Product is your book, all right? Or it's your articles, your classes if you teach classes, your blog if you have a blog, your consulting business if you have consulting business. Your expertise is your product. But ultimately, for most of you listening to this, it's your book. Yeah. The best platform of promotion is a great product, letting the work speak for itself. Because you don't get sold along with the book. It's why in writing workshops, the author should not get to explain the manuscript because they don't get sold with the manuscript. The manuscript has to stand on its own. Better platform promotion, more great products. Cut to the chase, you've got to write. You could get really sucked up into doing promotion, which we're going to talk about next. But the priority for you is product. How do readers find you? Doesn't always lead to sales, but you keep seeing the same thing long enough, it might eventually lead to sales. You don't know what's going to happen, how it leads readers down this weird and winding path to finding you. Okay? 2 ways to sell books: product placement, which is like BookBub ads or paying for AMS, Amazon Marketing Services, and readers talking to readers. The second one doesn't cost anything in money, but it might cost you a lot in time connecting with your reader. Because marketing is engagement. Why would someone click on a link? Most of us are very leery of clicking on links. One of the things you'll keep hearing is, oh, you must have a mailing list. You must have a mailing list. How many are like signing up for a mailing list? Very few. It's really difficult. You got to give people some value. Why should they be interested in you? What's special about you? Why would they be interested in your product, your book? How capable are you of marketing? There are many, many ways to market. I'm not going to get into those. That's a whole separate class. For nonfiction, now this is a big thing here that factors into this. Be very careful when you're reading advice or listening to people. Fiction and nonfiction, 2 totally separate things. You can market nonfiction. You can target an audience with nonfiction. When I try to target my survival books or my writing books, I can target it to a certain audience. Not so with my fiction as much, okay? So they're 2 very, very different things. Fiction is vague and difficult. I've written a horror story. Okay, who likes reading horror? I don't know who likes reading horror. I get emails back from readers of all ages, male, female, kids, adults, retired people. Who knows? So keep this in mind when seeking advice on how to market. Don't get caught up, with a novel, listening to a nonfiction person telling you how to market. There's going to be lots of people out there trying to sell you marketing, boilerplate marketing plans. Most of them don't work. I'm just being honest. I know people invest a lot of money in this, and talk to other people who've tried it before you invest money. We've got a lot of social media platforms out there, okay? Try to cross-pollinate as much as possible, as I said, to enhance search engine optimization. When I do a post, I put it on every platform I can. It saves you time and energy. You got YouTube and SlideShare. As a matter of what I'm doing right now is a slideshow with narration, then translating that into an MP4, which you can then upload to YouTube. What are you good at? What are you not good at? You have to do some things you're not good at, particularly with engagement. For a lot of writers, it's getting out of yourself. We tend to be introverts. You have to engage people. But again, you can't do everything. You're going to hear a lot of writers tell you different ways of doing things. Listen to it, try different things, but find what you're really good at. What's your return on investment? And that's not just money, okay? Your most valuable thing is time. You're taking away from your writing time to do this marketing. I know writers who get too caught up on it because they just keep thinking, if I just do a little bit more, it'll break through, it'll break through, it'll break through. The best marketing you can do, again, is writing a good book. Next best marketing, writing another good book. What do you have control over? The writing and the marketing you can do from home. For an indie author, it's all on you, but actually for a traditionally published author, we all have to do the same things. This is just for fun, Amazon sales rankings. Make of it what you will. But it is tough to break through, okay? So, where do you stand in all of this? Who are you? What are you good at? Do you have hopefully you have a good product. That's the most important thing, a strong product in the center. If you have a good platform, that could lead to strong promotion if you use your platform. Write the best possible book. I mean, that sounds easy, but a lot of people think they can market their way into success. It's the book, it's the product, because that's the only thing that ends up in the reader's hands. Be consistent. One of the things marketing people will tell you, you have to be consistent. Know that you can't do everything, so don't beat yourself up all the time, but content is king. I have been doing this for over 3 decades. I've seen a lot of talented people just quit and go home. And these days, as I started with, we create the content, readers consume the content. The only people between us and the reader is the internet. There's nobody, no person. So you can't blame agents, editors, publishers, all the rest. It's you who has to be persistent and keep working at it. Don't quit. All right, look 3 years ahead, believe in what you're doing, and never quit. I'm going to leave you with a quote from a Monty Python, Terry Gilliam. Talent is less important in filmmaking than patience. If you really want your films to say something that you hope is unique, then patience and stamina, thick skin, and a kind of stupidity, a mule-like stupidity, is what you really need. I've got a bunch of free slideshows on my website, on the workshops page, not just writing, but survival, history, other things. Books. The black one is how to write the book. The middle one is how to be an author, which nobody really teaches you how to do. And that's my background. I wish everyone the best. Hang in there, stay safe, and just keep writing.